Greetings, students. As promised, I'm here to talk to you about your signature assignment. We're going to go over everything. I've got a couple of videos up that we'll have here so that you guys can see everything and see what's going on here. So, what is the signature assignment? A signature assignment is something that Central Penn uses to make sure that we're getting similar learning outcomes across different sections of the same class, right? So this class is offered fairly frequently. We like to make sure that all of the students are getting kind of the same thing out of it. So that's the idea behind a signature assignment. So the signature assignment always has a prompt. So let's go ahead and review the prompt, and then we'll kind of go over some ideas about how to start getting that together, and we'll have a separate video with the grading rubric, so you'll know exactly how this will be graded. So let's look at this prompt. Through the 19th and 20th centuries, many countries across the world confronted the practice of slavery. In this paper, you will examine how the institution of slavery in the United States compared to global trends during the same period, considering the following questions into your analysis, right? First question, how did slavery in the U.S. resemble or differ from slavery or forced labor practices in other parts of the world? Examine why the U.S. followed or diverged from global trends. 2. After the abolition of slavery in the U.S., how did the treatment of Black Americans compare to the treatment of marginalized racial or ethnic groups in other countries? And 3. What global movements or ideas about human rights and equality influenced the U.S. at different points in time? I know, it's a lot, okay? So let's break this down a little bit. So we are going to be focusing on global trends surrounding work and abolition in the 19th century. So it's for our class, right? We don't need to focus on the 20th. That's a bit much. So let's just keep this to the 19th century. We really want to focus on the abolition of slavery. Okay? So we do have our slavery unit up, and I have designed that unit to work with this assignment so that you are nice and prepared for that assignment. Okay? It's in week 5. So you should be done with that unit by the time we get here. So we are getting into it in coursework, but you are going to have to do some of your own stuff. So let's get into the nuts and bolts here. So how long do I want this thing to be? It should be approximately 4 pages. Guys, please read the approximately. Do you see the approximately right there? Approximately. Please do not email and say, oh my goodness, my paper is 3.5 pages long. Are you going to fail me? No, I'm not, because that's approximately 4 pages, isn't it? Approximately is doing a lot of work in that sentence, guys. Just near 4, okay? Size 12 font, no 34 fonts or anything like that. Please submit your work in Doc or DocX format with 1-inch margins. You will need to find and utilize 3, count them 3 scholarly sources. What counts as a scholarly source? Not Wikipedia, not social media. Scholarly sources are fact-checked, right? So these are articles, these are newspapers, these are books, these are things which other people have checked to make sure they are true before we are using them. The library is a great place to start. You may use any citation system with which you are comfortable, but you must cite. If you do not cite, that is plagiarism, and I have to fail you, and that is not good. You don't want to do that, okay? So, how would I go about writing this paper if I were a student in this class? Well, I would recommend following the format of the prompt when you're crafting your paper, right? So I would start with the first question. And then I would move on to the second question. So you would kind of start with slavery in the U.S. as compared to other places. Now, possibly the most easy places for us to compare are going to be like the Caribbean. So I would probably start there. I would maybe also look at Europe. That would also be a good place. And maybe even South America, right? Those would probably be really good places for us to compare because we started out similarly, right? But we're starting to diverge in history at this point. So I would start with the first question. Then I would move to after abolition, keep with the same countries. I would maybe pick 2 or 3 countries that I would focus on to keep it consistent and look through those countries. And then after I go through slavery in America and those other countries, abolition of slavery in America and those other countries, and then global movements or ideas about human rights and equality, right? So it kind of lays it out for you in such a way that it makes it easier to write the paper. So the last thing I have on the actual description of the assignment here is that your paper must have a thesis. A thesis is a provable statement. I have an example down here. No, this cannot be your thesis for this paper because it doesn't make any sense for this paper. It's just an example, okay? So, for example, the Civil War was bad and caused lots of death is not a good thesis. There is nothing to prove. No claim is being made. Bad thesis. Good thesis would be the Civil War was caused by disagreement over admission of slave states to the Union. That's a good thesis because it makes a claim which can be proved with evidence, right? Claim that can be proved with evidence. So that's something we want to make sure that we have included in our paper. All right, so that's the basic outline of the project. That's the meat of what has to go into it. I'll see you guys in the next video where we're going to review the rubric so that you know how this paper will be graded.